Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Lalit Singh. So now that you have seen how exactly async task works, now let's just deep dive a little bit more about and learn a little bit more about async tasks. Well, we know how async tasks can be used to update your UI by putting your long-running tasks off the main threads. Now we are going to connect to internet with the help of async tasks only. Now before we do that, we need to know some classes by which you can do that. So in this particular session, we are going to learn about how exactly we can connect to internet. What are the permissions we need to add in the manifest file? What are the classes which we will be requiring for network connection? How to create my worker thread this time? What is the URL? How exactly we create our own URL to connect to the internet? So all those things we are going to learn about in this particular session. First of all, permission. If you want to connect to internet, you have to put the permissions. What are those permissions? First permission would be internet permission. You have to make sure that your application is able to access the internet. And how exactly you include the permission? In your manifest file, you will add inside the manifest tag, this tag uses permission. And in that, you have to define android.permission.internet. And it will give you the access of internet permission. Now your application can access the internet, and you can do all the you can include all the classes to connect to the internet, and it will work. But at the same time, you also need to add one more permission known as access network state. Now, this particular class is required if you are doing any connectivity operations. Let's say you are accessing your Wi-Fi, or you are accessing 3G data, or you are accessing 4G data. So if you are accessing those kind of data or network states, you need the access network state permission. So this permission you have to also add in your application. So how exactly you manage all your network connections? So to get the information about the network, you need a class named Connectivity Manager. Now, Connectivity Manager is a class which manages all the network which are there inside your Android device. It can be Wi-Fi, it can be 3G data, or it can be 4G data. Network info is a class which tells you the status about that particular mode of connecting to the internet. Let's say you are connecting through your mobile data, or you are connecting through your Wi-Fi data. It will tell you at what point of time which kind of data mode is on. And it comes pretty handy when you are trying to create an application which will be using internet extensively. You must have seen applications which don't even open if there is no internet connection. So how exactly they check that? How exactly they check out in your device that the internet is not on? With the help of these classes only. So let's see how exactly we can work around these classes. First thing, you need to create the object of the connectivity manager. And I can create that by using the get system services and connectivity service. By providing the connectivity service as argument. Once I get the object of my connectivity manager class, then all I need is I need to check which network state or which network info is as of right now active in my application, or as of right now active in my device. It can be at one point of time either Wi-Fi will be on, or mobile data will be on, or other mode of data will be on. So whichsoever mode of data is on, it will give you the access, or that object will be saved in your network info object. After that, you need to check if your network info object is not null and is actually connected. Let's say your Wi-Fi is actually on, you are getting your Wi-Fi mode, plus your Wi-Fi is actually connected, then only go ahead and do your task or your long-running task. Now, you could have directly call your long-running task also without even putting all these conditions. But it's a good practice that before you are going to call any long-running task, because they're going to use your resources, before allotting all the resources, you need to check whether whether all the conditions are meeting to provide all the resources to that particular task or not. So if internet is there, then only provide the resources. Otherwise, just tell that your internet is down or something, right? So that you don't have to unnecessarily call your long-running process. You can even check in which mode you are connected right now, whether it is Wi-Fi or whether it is mobile data. If how exactly you do that? Well, with the help of your connectivity manager object, just just get the network info and check out if that connectivity manager dot type underscore is Wi-Fi, or if it is type underscore mobile, it will be your mobile data. Now, why exactly this is important? Well, you must have seen in many applications, they only download stuff when you are connected to Wi-Fi, or they won't do any long running process if you are not connected to Wi-Fi. So how exactly they actually identify with the help of this particular method, that in whichsoever network you are connected right now, then only do this stuff. If you are not connected to that network, then don't even start the background task. So connecting to internet also, again, you need to put that in your worker thread. So we already know what kind of classes I can use for putting all the tasks in my worker thread. Async task, we have already seen. If the task is very short and result is not oftenly returned to the UI, then you can use async tasks. If tasks are very long and UI needs to be returned, you will, instead of just using async tasks, try to use async task loader or a background service. Services will be covered in our later sessions, but services can also be one way to handle your background task. So what exactly you will be doing in your background task when you are connecting to the internet? Well, first you need to create a URI. URI means to which point you want to connect. It may be a file, it may be a URL, or it may be a database connection you want to connect, right? Second thing, if you are connecting to the internet, then you need to make the HTTP connection, because we know how exactly we connect to the internet with the help of HTTP protocol. So here also you need to make a HTTP connection between them. And once you are connected, then you can download data, upload data, all the stuff, all the background tasks what you want to do. How exactly you can create the URI? Well, URI is uniform resource identifier, so it can be it can locate a particular file, it can locate a particular web page, or it can locate a particular content provider. Now, content prefix is used for your content provider. We will see that in later session, that how exactly we can create the content provider. But if you want to connect to a database, you with the help of content provider, you will be using the URI content as prefix, and after that you have to provide the path also. We'll discuss that. Now, let's say you want to connect to internet and you have the URL with you right now. Let's just take the example which we have in our hand. We have a Google Books API URL, and you want to connect to this particular URI, or you want to connect to this particular URL. To do that, first thing first, I create a base URL. Base URL is https www.googleapis.com/books till volumes. After that, you can see that Q equals to some data, result equals to some data, and type equals to some data. So for this, I'm creating some parameters like Q, max result, print type. I will provide the values. How exactly I can provide the values and build the whole URI, or build the whole URL itself? That's how I can build the whole URI. I will create a URI object by using the URI class, and then I will append whatever the parameter I passed before, like query param was denoting Q, and in Q I want the value pride plus prodigious. In the same way, for max result I want 10, print type books. So this whole thing, by providing this whole statement, what exactly I'm creating is I'm creating the URI or URL like you can see at the top. So this whole statement is creating that URL so that you can connect to that particular website and get the data from there. And after that, to make it as URL object, all you have to do is URL, that's the URL is the class, request URL equals to new URL, and build URI.toString. Just change it to the string. Once you have your URL, you need to connect to your HTTP client connection. Then you need to create an object of HTTP URL connection. So this HTTP URL connection must be done in a separate thread, because it is extensive, because it uses internet, and it uses the extensive internet. So you can't put that in your main thread. If you try to put that in your main thread, you don't know how much time your internet is taking. So your application might get crashed. So always put that in your do in background. And after that, it will require some try and catch statements. Why? Because you might provide a URL which doesn't even exist. So those kind of exception needs to be taken care by your try and catch blocks. How exactly you create an object of that? Well, you create HttpURL class reference con, and then whatever the URL object you had, just put open connection in that. Open connection method will give you will open the connection between that particular URL and give you the object of your HTTP URL connection. Now, you can always configure your HTTP URL connection object, like you want to set a particular read timeout. I mean, if you are not able to get the data back within 10 seconds, you don't want to continue that. Or if you want to time out, or if you're trying to connect and within 15 seconds you are not getting any response, again you want to time out. So you can increase or decrease the time according to your own requirement. And if you want to send the data, you can use a request method get, or post the data, you can use post, or open up the input stream by putting set do input true. At the end, you have to connect to your URL by the method name connect. Your URL connection object, HTTP URL connection object dot connect. And if you want to get the response, just get the response. It's an integer value which you will be getting, con.getResponseCode. And if you want to access the input stream, whatever you are getting in input stream, con.getInputStream. And this is where you will be getting all your response back. If you want to put the data, you will be using con.getOutputStream. And if you want to convert whatever you are getting in as string, you can convert it as string with the help of this method. Now, this method will be discussed further. At the end, you have to close all the connection, whatever the connection you open, like HTTP URL connection, or if you have any streams, you have to close all those streams too. How to convert your response to your string? Well, like I told you, that method will be discussed further. So in this particular method, you can see whatever the data you were getting in the form of input stream, now you are converting it back to your string. It's just plain Java. Whatever you were doing in your Java, you will be using the same classes, input stream reader class. You will provide a buffer, and you will start reading from that input stream reader, and then return the string back. Or there is an efficient way by using a BufferedReader object. So by using this way, inside BufferedReader, there is an object you need to create that is for input stream reader, and inside that you can pass your input stream, and then you can go through with the while loop and read line by line, and put everything back into a string builder class or a normal string, and format it and return your string back to the user. Now, though that's how you actually connect to the internet. That's how you actually even collect the response back from your websites and all. Now it's a long process. You have to remember all the classes. You have to remember all the steps. So to simplify this, there are third libraries which you can use instead of HTTP URL connection classes. What are those libraries? Like OkHttp or Volley. They are also called on the main thread itself. They are being called in the main thread. But under the hood, there is a async task inside these libraries, which is actually doing the long running process in the background. So there is much less code. You don't have to write the whole code which you just which you have just learned. So how exactly you can design the same thing in Volley? In Volley, we have a class known as request queue. The requests in the Volley are, let's say you want to connect to a particular website, they will be considered as request queues. They will be considered as requests. So all those requests, all those connecting to different website, you can put as many as request queues you want. You will provide the URL, and at the end you will return a string request object, and in which there will be a callback method. Of course, you have to define the method type get or post if you are getting the data .get. If you are putting then post. And there will be two callback method, that is on response and when there is an error, that is for error listener. So if there is a response, put the code there and access the data. And if there is any error, provide the code to handle that error also. And at the end, you can add this particular request, string request, back to your request queue, and it will be processed. So you see, code is quite coincided as compared to a normal HTTP URL connection. In the same way, in OkHttp library, we have to create a object of a class OkHttp client, and then again we need to build a request object. Inside that, you can pass whatever the URL you want to connect, and here also there will be a callback method you need to override, that is on response, and whatever the response you are getting, you will handle it here. You can even parse it if you like. We'll discuss about parse in our next slide. So, but that's how you actually handle your response in your OkHttp. I would suggest you search out about the Volley and OkHttp more if you want to continue to work with these libraries. How exactly you will be passing your result? Generally, what happens, either you will get your data in the text HTML, or in most of the cases, your data will be either in JSON or XML. So you need a way by which you can actually pass your data in your own data type within your application, right? So all the modern websites you will see right now, they get the data in the form of JSON or XML. Well, where do you need all these JSON and XML? Whenever you will be creating your web services. Web services is a concept in which that service can be used by any client, any user. So they will give you a unified, they will give you the data in the form of unified language, either in JSON or XML. So in your application, you need to put the code by which you can parse the data which you are getting from your web service. So all the modern websites are using your JSON data. So we will be discussing about JSON only here. So that's how a basic JSON data looks like. It has the attributes, like population is the attribute, and then its value. Country, again attribute, then its value, like India. It can have an array as an attribute also, like city, and inside that there are different other values, New Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai. So if you want to access any one of these attributes, let's say I want to access the country inside this. So whenever I will be accessing this JSON object, this complete is a JSON object, I will be just putting the attribute country, and it will give me the value that is India. So how exactly I can parse my data? Well, for that I need to create a JSON object, class object, and in the constructor I need to pass the response which I'm getting from my website. Then let's say, let's just take the example of this only. I want to, this is my response. This whole thing which I'm getting from my website is this JSON object. Now at this point of time, if I want to access the country, what I will do is, everything is inside JSON object now. All I have to do is JSONObject.get and the attribute name which you want to access. That's country. So name of the country will be India now. Then let's say population. It's a long type. So again, typecast JSONObject.get, give the attribute, and it will give you the value. If it is an array, the value which you are accessing is an array, then you will use JSON array as an return type. And again, whatever the JSON object is, .get, and provide the attribute. Like here, it is cities. You can see, right? And it will give you the whole New Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai as in the form of JSON array. And then you can iterate through that JSON array object if you like. Now let's say, let's just take another example of JSON, a little bit more complex example. You can see that there is a JSON object in which there is a attribute menu, and inside menu there is ID, value, pop-up, and inside pop-up there is menu item, and menu items, and inside menu item there are other items again, like values, on click, and again there is another JSON object, values, on click. So how can I access, how can I parse this kind of JSON format? Well, again, you just need to get the response back in the JSON object, and just need to specify which item you want to access. Let's say I want to access that menu item. That looks complex, right? Let's just say I want to access that menu item. So all I need to do is put that attribute menu item, and from there on, which data you want to access inside the menu item. There are three items in the menu item. You can see three JSON objects. So again, as it is three JSON objects, so I will do what? JSON object, because it's a JSON object, and then where exactly it is inside? It is inside your menu item array dot get JSON object. That's the method to get the JSON object. And I'm getting the second, so that means I will get the access of my second data inside the menu item, that is value open, and on click open doc. So from there on, if I want to access any one of those JSON objects attribute, let's say on click I want to access, all I need to do is third item dot get string and provide the attribute on click. So that's how you can even parse the complex data or complex JSON format. To learn more about connectivity classes and HttpURL.Connection classes or input stream, please follow the following links. Next, we are going to see the practicals of async task classes, and we are also going to see a small demo of connecting to internet. Thank you.